Hi everyone, welcome back to Katarina's Garage. My name is Katarina Lloyd, and today, well, I am here at Ipullupull, or not Ipullupull, sorry, Ipullupull, here in Edmonton, and actually there's some cool stuff out in this yard that I've wanted to come here for a while, just to check stuff out, and, you know, last time I did a video like this actually did pretty well, so I like these junkyard tours, and I know you guys do too, so let's go check this stuff out. So, this is their builder section. You can see some really cool cars, like this Mercury Meteor 1950, and it's a two-door. It's actually not in that bad shape, to be honest, you know, and one tail light's missing, or actually broken. You can see right there, but actually this thing is really damn cool, you know, and unfortunately the fender's a little messed up there, but overall it's a very cool car. And you can tell, yeah, critters have definitely been in this interior. But what do you expect? It's a car from 1950 that, you know, didn't make a lot of. This one's for sale for $1,900, which is actually not a terrible price. It's missing some stuff, but overall it's pretty much all there. Here we have, is this a Studebaker Lark? It might be, to be honest. These are really cool. You don't see too many of the Studebakers from this time period. Like, you'll see, actually I think I've seen more Hawks than I've seen these. And, oh, maybe it's not a Lark, but similar anyways. Now, and Studebaker as a company, it's interesting because when AMC was formed, which was Hudson and Nash, they actually wanted a bigger conglomerate of companies. And Studebaker was supposed to be one of those companies, but they said, no, we'll just do it by themselves. And unfortunately, it wasn't too long afterwards, like this happens to be a 57, but it wasn't too long afterwards that Studebaker went out of business. It was only a few years. So, and at least AMC lasted until 1987 when they were bought up by Chrysler. So, overall, this thing's actually pretty cool too. And let's take a look under the hood. Good old flathead 6. You know, nothing too special under there, but that's cool. Very cool. For two grand? Not bad. Now this is interesting, and unfortunately this one's just so far gone. Datsun 510 that it's just, well, look at the rust. Like, this is a parts car. 100%. I'm surprised that they actually have it sitting here, to be honest, as one of their builders, but you know, lots of the time though, like something like this would have just been scrapped long ago. So at least they're giving it somebody a chance. And even look at the drive shaft, right? It's just all bent up. But at least they're giving somebody a chance to save this car. But it's just, it's so far gone. Like, I don't see them actually getting their money out of that one, to be honest. It's sad, but it is what it is. It's a cool car, Datsun 510. Don't see very many. Now this is a 65 Ford, is this a Galaxy? It might be, I'd have to see the taillights for sure. But convertible, it's actually in not too bad shape. I mean, rear quarters are kind of iffy. There is no, the top is done for it. Yeah, it is a Galaxy, that's what I thought. This thing is actually pretty darn cool. It does come with a spare sheet metal for the rear quarters. Those look a little thin though, but it's actually really neat. Now this could have a multitude of engines in it. This could be a small block, this could be a big block, it could be a 352. Could it be a 390 yet? I don't think so. I doubt it's a 427. But I mean, we can take a look under the hood to see, is there a motor? Because it looks like it's sitting a little high up front. Nope, no motor. So, this could have been anything. You'd have to try and decode the VIN, or the fender tag, I should say. But, very cool, old Galaxy. And it's so funny when you come here because their import section, right? Camry cab, Camry cab, Camry cab, Camry cab, Camry cab, Camry. You know, just like so many Camrys that were cabs, right? And it's pretty interesting just to walk the yard. Because you never know what you're gonna find. Like Volvo's V70 wagon, that's pretty cool. Ooh, even an old four-door Accord. that is really neat too. And I didn't think it was going to be too muddy in here, but it was raining pretty hard for the past week or so. But those Accords are cool. My dad had one similar vintage to that one, and that one is a actually I don't know what year that one is. It's going to be mid to late 80s though. But those are cool. My dad had one for a little bit. His was a 5-speed 4-door, and it actually had a JDM swap in it. So instead of it making about 100 horsepower, it actually made about 120 horsepower. So that thing was fast, to be honest. And ooh, check it out. Okay, so here we go. Found something really, really cool. What even is this? Is this an old Saab or is this a Volvo? I think it's an old Volvo. Let's see, what does the tag say? Yeah, it is a Volvo. 64 Volvo. And oh, the motor's still here. It's probably locked up, I can imagine. But let's see, is the fan's not locked up? That's not that those usually lock up, but sometimes they do. This is a cool old Volvo. And it's something you almost never see, right? No, not much floors left in this thing. You know, I can see why that this was sent into the yard, to be honest. It makes sense. But there's a companion to it. Another old Volvo. And I can imagine these were probably sent in at the same time. Be very unlikely for stuff this rare to be from two separate sellers, but you never know, to be honest. Like, that's the one thing. And it's just super cool. And this one's a 65, so 64 over there, 65 here. I don't know much about these, but I love their lines and everything. And actually, if you look back here, it kind of reminds me of like a Beetle if it was a fastback, right? That's what it kind of reminds me of. It's pretty cool. Well, here we go. Spot another cool old Honda. Is this one another Accord, or is this a Prelude? Yeah, it's a 4-door, so it's an Accord. And again, the pop-up lights is really cool, which I think can be up to 87 or maybe 88 with the pop-ups. But very cool. Let's see, automatic or manual? Yeah, it's not automatic. So, my dad's was great. This one has, this is 89, but I thought they would have gone to the fixed headlights by then, but maybe not. But still, a very cool car, to be honest. Now, here's something you don't see. So this is a second-gen Toyota Celica Supra. And these pretty much, so they're a Celica, but they're a little wider, and I believe a little longer too. And they have different panels on them, but also every single one of these came with a inline 6 instead of having the 4-cylinder. This is pretty cool, actually. And it's stripped. I mean, I actually grew up with one of these that was down the block from me, and actually you can see the original front seat sitting right there. It's quite tatty, but you can tell that's how sporty it was, right? These weren't a particularly fast vehicle by any stretch of the imagination, but actually, apologies, it's not a Celica Supra, it's just a Celica. Because you can see the 4-cylinder in here, which some we took the head off of, but you know, the parts are going to be a little hard to find for these, but they're really cool to find. Now, this is a surprise to see in the junkyard. So this is a, yeah, it's an old Toyota with a 22R carbureted under the hood. Of course, it's quite beat up and whatever. That's probably why it's in here, but a lot of people go nuts for these. This one looks like it's a manual, too. Just kind of sad, but that's how it goes, because who knows? It could have everything wrong with it, right? And that's the reason why, or potentially, you know, they had it for sale for a long time and just nobody wanted to buy it. It's a 82. You can see right there. That's really cool. And the 22R was actually used for a long time, a very long time. Actually see an old Volvo here. This is really neat. Volvo 740, maybe? Possibly a 240, but I think it's bigger than that. It's a 1990 240, okay. It is a 240, and it is a manual. You can see right there. That's cool. These things are, they're a fantastic car. They're extremely reliable, and they actually have proper crash test safety, to be honest. If you have a kid and you want to get them into a classic car, but you're worried about safety, get them one of these. This is one of the standards for modern crash test safety, to be honest, is the Volvo 240. And they made it for a long time. Parts are abundant for them, and they're just very cool. Now, here is a 74 Toyota 1600 automatic, and it's pretty roached. I can see why it's in here. It's kind of sad, but you know, it's one of those things, and you can see just how many leaves and stuff like that are in there. Plus, it got crashed in the front end too. You can see that. And look at that, coilovers, which Americans didn't start doing for quite a long time, to be honest. Like, and we, you know, American manufacturers wondered why that the Japanese were taking over in the 70s, and it's cars like this. Cars like the Celica, cars like, you know, a bunch of others, to be honest, that really just shaped what we know for cars today. Now, this is kind of cool to see here, you know, have this old Jag here. I don't know a ton on these. I do know it's interesting, though, that a lot of these Jags actually use Chevrolet Turbo 350 or Turbo 400 transmissions. So actually, a few of the British cars did. And God, look at all these lines and vacuum lines, and oh, what a nightmare. But it's cool. This one with the circular headlights is a little earlier. Not too early though, like this is 70s probably, maybe early 80s, but still, that's cool. All right, so let's continue on. So it appears I have ventured into Dodge land. At least I think. This is a Dodge? No, it's not a Slant 6. That's a Chevy. So there you go. It's hard to tell from some of these at times because it's just one of these things. Now these, it's interesting because these were such a popular old thing. Oh, there you go. It's an Econoline. I did not recognize that inline 6. So that inline 6, that may have been like a 240 inline 6 or something like that. Because I just don't typically see them when they're, oh no, hang on. No, that is potentially a 200. And you see the early Holly carb there. So that actually is like a 200, maybe a 144 or something like that. Possibly 170. That's cool. And yeah, this thing was all decked out at one point, but unfortunately, it's all kind of just gone at this point. That's sad, but it is what it is. As there's people on the two cars right beside me, I won't touch those. So this is a 64 Mercury Comet, and what's interesting, because the Comet was based on, I think, the Fairlane, if I'm not mistaken. But then the Fairlane went upsized, and this stayed to a midsize, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Fairlane became the Torino, actually. And oh, okay, it does have a V8 in it. This being a 64, this could be a 260 V8, actually. But I don't know. And one of these early carbs, these carbs are actually, like, this one's just really far gone. But these carbs, it's actually almost identical to the one that I'm running, except for mine's a 63 carb, and those actually have Holly jets in them, and they're actually a very nice find for somebody, to be honest. If you find any of these early Ford 2-barrel carburetors, they're worth grabbing. Definitely worth grabbing. I have one of those on my 81 Mustang. So, and it's just too bad that this thing, you know, it doesn't have a transmission tunnel anymore. And, you know, like the trunk is all, well, like that. Actually, oh no, the trunk's quite rusty, never mind. And what's interesting about these early Fords, like the Fords through the 60s, a lot of them had their gas tanks like this. So your floor was essentially your gas tank. It was an interesting design. I don't know why they did it that way, but hey, it made it a lot easier to swap these out. So, you know, it's pretty cool. And they would, I think they come in from underneath and you bolt them up top, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a little interesting. You know, we come back over here. We see this is a 66 Dodge Polara. So that's what was throwing me off, because I saw the Dodge Polara and, oh, there's a GM mat in here though. No. So this is interesting because this would be a unibody, and a lot of Chryslers were unibodies, and oh, it's got a Polara with a slant 6. This would have been a gutless wonder. But, you know, the slant 6 is a half, like, it's actually a pretty reliable engine overall, but they do have their problems. especially in the cars because of the way that the oil pan is, that whenever you let off the throttle, it actually will starve the engine of oil for a tiny bit. So that's something you gotta watch out for. The trucks, though, with their oil pans didn't have that problem, and that appears to be locked. So, okay. That's locked, too. That or they're frozen solid. Could just be that, too. But yeah, you can see, actually, part of the taillight, or the taillight for the... Actually, both the lights are here, and they're actually in pretty good shape. Those are probably worth a decent amount of money to somebody. And what's with this exhaust tubing here? What is that? That's interesting. Very interesting. And is this another Polera? I think it is. Unless this is a Monaco. Let's see. Yeah, this is a 1970 Dodge Monaco. So this is a two-door. And again, unibody, so no frame underneath this one. And they should have, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not already stolen off this one. Yeah, it's already stolen. I was like, because these should have a torsion bar suspension. A lot of the old Mopars actually did. They ran it for a long time, and it was really worth having. And now this, okay, it is a small block. It would have had good heads though, just because of how, you know, the higher compression in 1970. That's the reason why somebody stole the heads and the intake off this one. So, but that's the one thing. If you're looking for higher compression stuff, just find the earlier models of your engine and take the parts off of those, because it'll make a big difference. And last but not least, at least in this little row here, we have this old Pontiac Strato Chief, which is really cool. It's a 66, okay. Sedan, of course, column shift automatic, it's not surprising. These were usually either column shift automatic or a 3 on the tree. Very rarely did you actually get a proper manual transmission. But just look at the lines and stuff, right? Like, you can envision this with not all the dents to hell in it and all the rust, and this would actually have been a really nice car back in the day. And all the motor's still together. Now, this being a Strato Chief, I think that might actually be a proper Pontiac engine, rather than a Chevrolet transmission, because all the Canadian Pontiac models, which I don't believe the Strato Chief was, actually had Chevrolet frames and drivetrains in them, while the American Pontiacs had Pontiac drivetrains and frames underneath them. So it's a little interesting, actually. And then let's take a look at this. This is a 68 Comet, and so the Comet was essentially, and you see, there's my engine right there. Except for, look at how small the collector is here versus on mine where it's huge because it had a bunch of catalytic material in mine. But, so this, because actually the Comet, I got it wrong on the other car there. So the Comet itself is actually based on the, what's it called? What the Mustang's based off of. The Falcon, there we go. You know, at least in the earlier years, for sure. And I think this is still Falcon based, to be honest. And it's just really cool. It's actually not, I mean, okay, it's a little rough, but it's actually not in that bad a condition. Like, somebody could have saved this before it was sent in here. Unless it's just completely gone underneath, and there's telltale signs of it being potentially screwed underneath, so. Yeah, I mean, and I get it. It's a four-door Comet. Most people don't care, but it is really cool to see. As we continue on here, ooh, Buick 455. Let's see, is it all together? Oh, it is too. Buick 455, you see that big old quadrijet up top. That is probably the best quadrijet they ever made. There's some treasures in this junkyard, man. A lot of treasures in this junkyard. So yeah, this is a Buick 455, and the one thing is, because with GM, it's a little interesting. All of GM's brands actually made different engines, to be honest. This is a Buick Wildcat. Okay, so this is the lower end version of a Riviera, essentially. Although the Riviera did have a different body style, but because Riviera was the top, I believe Wildcat was just underneath of it, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but if somebody wants to correct me in the comments, they can. You know, and This thing, why is this thing in the junkyard? I don't get it. Sometimes I do wonder what people actually send to the junkyard, because this doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, it's quite tatty. It needs a ton of work, but this is a savable car. And like, just listen to that. Like, that is sad. That is very sad. I mean, who knows? What may have happened with this car is that the motor just piled up, or maybe the transmission piled up, maybe the rear end did, and they just didn't have enough money to fix it. They may have not even tried to list it because they thought it was just an old car that nobody cared about and sent it to the junkyard. That does happen. You can tell it's sitting for a long time because look at these tires. It's been a while since I've seen really like knobby sort of winter tires like that. But yeah, because even like in the trunk here, trunk pan's gone, but that's normal. As long as the frame underneath this is good, because this would be a full frame, body on frame vehicle, I believe. That's just really cool. Very sad to see that in here. You know, ooh, actually, I skipped a couple here. Hang on. Before I go to the Dodge here. So here we have I think this is a 70 Monaco. It has gold, right? Sorry, 72 Polara. Similar car. To be honest, I don't know the differences between a Polara and a Monaco. See, under hood, another small block. And how I can tell from Dodge small blocks to big blocks. Small blocks, the distributor was out back. Big blocks, they were up front. That's the easiest way to tell a small block from a big block. And this one, I can see why this one's in here, to be honest. But this is such a cool car. And oh yeah, I think a tree fell on this or something like that, or a pole. That is such a shame. You know. And I don't know what that's off of, but it's not from this. And you can see just these gorgeous taillights and bumper treatment here. I love Dodge styling back in the day. And you know, I don't know a ton on these Dodges, but it actually had a bunch of shag carpet in it. But that was the style through the 70s, even partially the 60s. So, you know, yeah, it's just one of these things that it's just such a shame to see this in the junkyard. But I can see why it is in here, to be honest. You know, here we have a 66 Chevrolet Biscayne wagon. Now, people do go nuts for these, to be honest. I like them myself. Although, I'd much rather have a Dodge or maybe a Ford product, to be honest. But Chevrolets are very, very cool, too. I just love the dashboards in these old cars and stuff. And, you know, oh, this one has a good old inline 6. Oh, it might be a Chevrolet 250, but the intake is gone, the carb is gone, the exhaust is also gone too. Because this would have been, actually, something with this, is that the intake and exhaust, I think, would have been one piece with each other. It's a very weird design, because, you know, it's an inline 6, but I believe that's how they went. It was an interesting design choice by Chevrolet. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And you know, where everybody else, it was either the intake and head were one piece or whatever else, but the exhaust would never have been part of it. At least I'm pretty sure when I look at that, that's what that is. All right. Now, what am I even looking at here? It's so bent up that I can't even tell. I can look at the sticker, I suppose. Another Strato Chief. Okay, so this is a 66. And yeah, no steering column in it, no motor, no tranny. You know, but actually, this one, it's not bad. It's got this really cool Pontiac nose. I liked the Pontiacs from this time period, to be honest. They're just really, really cool. But, yeah. It is not in terrible shape, to be honest. Like, not in the best shape by any stretch. There's a reason why it's in here. But man, especially like this trunk. Like, I wonder what happened here. Somebody must have pulled it from that. 100% that's what happened. Somebody pulling it out of somewhere, pulled it from the trunk and bent it up like that. That's sad. Is this a Pontiac as well? Yep, it is a Pontiac. 56 Pontiac. There we go. Actually, 56. Hang on. Is it? Oh, maybe that is a tri. Yeah, okay, that is a tri-5 roof. I was about to say, what? I thought this was a little earlier than that, but actually no. Looking at it closer, that is correct. Fortunately the gauges are out of it, and you know, steering wheel's gone. Got the old flathead 6. Now that's surprising, seeing a flathead this late. That doesn't sound right. Hang on. No. This is not a 56. They have it labeled wrong. This is like a 52 or 53-ish in that area. Because now I'm seeing it from this side. I can totally, yeah, that's what this is. So, still really, really cool. That threw me off seeing that sticker, to be honest. I'm like, what? No. Those body lines, they just didn't really look quite right. And sure shit, I was right. All right, beside this, we have a 1970 Olds Delta 88. And there's a bunch of, you know, there's a steering column, coil springs, got disc brakes in here. You know, whew, yeah, look at all the leaves and stuff in here. This thing's sat for a long time. I bet there's almost nothing left of these floors too. Now this being a Delta 88, if it's still here, let's see, does it have a motor in it? Should. Unless it's, well, there is a motor in there. This should be a big block. I mean, it might be a small block, but it should be a big block, you would think. There we go. Like that. Yeah, I can't really get this hood open very well, but that's okay. I'm not going to try too hard, because this video is going to be long enough. So, but yeah, an old Delta 88, 1970. So if that has a big block, it's got like heads and stuff like that you might want. So that's one to look out for here at Ipullupull. You know, so this is an old Dodge actually. And they were widely unchanged from about 1965, even to be honest with you, the 70s. Like, they did actually change in 72, don't get me wrong, but they still looked very similar. Now this is interesting. Okay, so there's a carb plate there, and there's a 1 barrel here. This is interesting. Now, and this would have been, depending on what year this is, that might be a Polyblock 318 actually, which the Polyblocks were called for Polysphere, and okay, 1967, that could be a 318 Poly actually. And now I know that some of these have an interesting door handle situation, but I think that'd be early. I think that's 65 for these. But it's really cool. Manual, you know, most of these were. Actually, I look at this thing and it's very solid. Like, I get the Dodges don't really have the value and it's worth more in parts. I understand that. But why did nobody save this? Again, it's sometimes sad to walk through the junkyard and just find this stuff. Because this thing, why is it in here? Legit. Like, and again, it could have been, I mentioned it earlier, but, you know, there could be a multitude of reasons why it's in here. It's just sad to see it in here. Actually, it's interesting. So this is a car plate for a 2 barrel, right? But it has a 1 barrel on it, and I think maybe they adapted this or something to a 2 barrel at one point, but that carburetor looks like it's almost never been off, so I don't know what that's doing here. It's probably from something else. Ah, now this thing is interesting. The paint job is quite wild. This is a Ford product, probably a Mercury is my guess. Oh, it's a convertible. Okay. That's cool. Very neat. And, oh, it's a, what? That's a Monaco front end. And that looks like almost an LS intake. I don't know why that's sitting here. Get it away from the Dodge. Yeah, actually, now that I see the back end, it definitely is a Monaco. I don't know why I thought Ford product, to be honest, in the front end. That just threw me out. Oh, hang on a second. I can't open the door. But this has bucket seats in it. Yo! And this was a floor shift. So this would have been a full console car and everything. And this, again, small block in it. That's why it hasn't been pillaged yet. But, you know, the heads, again, higher compression heads for being a, you know, the similar year. Although, granted, you probably still want the, like, 70, 71 more so for a lot of those. But, hey, it's really cool. Very, very neat. This paint job is a little interesting. Let's see. This door looks like it opens. Yes, it does. There's no floor left in it. I dig these bucket seats. They're really cool. Take a look at these gauges, right? Just very cool. I love stuff like this, to be honest. And, you know, the more of these get put in the junkyard, the less of them that there are still out there. So, you know, go to your local small towns. Adopt a classic car today. Even though these are in Edmonton. And now, cars in here, I'm not sure if you're able to buy them or not, but well, this is a Cutlass, right? At least it looks like a Cutlass. Oh, motor's in here, but it's kind of fallen. It's fallen and it can't get up. This thing, yeah, I'm pretty sure this was like a 72-ish Cutlass. And these are a very popular car. These are the GMA body based on like the Chevelle, Buick Skylark, Pontiac Tempest, that sort of thing. They all share the same sort of and hey, good old bias ply winter tire back there. There you go. This is cool. It's too bad that, you know, oh, this is actually a Buick, not an Oldsmobile. Okay. So this is a Skylark, not a Cutlass. It's just the grille was, you know, mostly missing, so I couldn't quite tell that this was a Skylark. That's really cool. Skylarks are actually my favorite out of all of them. People like their Chevelles and stuff like that, or Cutlasses, but I love these Skylarks. I think they look the best, to be honest, when they're all together, because this one's obviously quite in tough shape. But, you know, another Chevrolet, there's actually 3 Chevrolet wagons over here, which is surprising. No motor, no tranny. And, you know, judging by there's no motor, no transmission now, there is a transmission back here, so maybe that's the transmission out of this. But this could have potentially been, this is not an Impala, just a Biscayne, because you see only 2 taillights. Where Impalas, this is Bel Air, but it has 3 taillights. This would be an Impala, so they have this one labeled wrong. But the Impala was the top of the line, Bel Air was the bottom of the barrel. And at this point, Bel Air in the 50s, like the Tri-5 era, you know, 55, 56, 57, that was the top. But then the Impala came out and it got knocked down quite a bit. So pretty cool. Couple of Chevrolet wagons though. Very cool. Here we go, way in the back corner of the yard, because I was trying to find other stuff that's just really cool. Actually, there's a couple of things. So here we have an International, right? And here we have an F-250. This is going to be 60s. That is, I believe, 70s. So this could even be late 50s too. These Internationals, like if you didn't know, International actually made pickup trucks for a very long time. But they stopped making pickups in the 70s, I believe. Now, this is labeled wrong. This is F-350. It's not. It's an International. I can tell you that just by looking at the front end. Looking at the cab design too, that's an International. That's really cool. Internationals were so unique with their styling that, you know, it's one of these things. But that's one of these things that you have to be careful of. So when you are actually looking for specialty parts at a junkyard, honestly, it's always worth, because a lot of them are mislabeled, as we've seen today. That, you know, you might not find what you're looking for just by a quick search or calling them, right? Sometimes it's worth even just paying somebody to come down for you and take a look in the yard. Just send them pictures of what you want, and, you know, it's worth it. Now, this is the motor from that, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, what even is this? Actually, hang on. No, that's a rear. No, that's not from this, because the distributor's in the back. All fours have the distributor up front. So, but it looks like it's from this, right? Like it's even blue valve covers and everything, but that's a GM motor. But really, this thing's pretty darn cool. Oh, it was on propane. Propane and propane accessories. Now, and something, people go nuts for these. This one's a 76, that's about right, to be honest. You know, you see the Super Cab, which Ford kind of, they came up with that name and stuck to it. This thing's just really, really cool. And, you know, I sold a couple of these before. Now, in about, well, maybe a little better in this shape, but not much, to be honest. It's just really cool, although every single one I've sold has been incomplete, so. This one, a lot's been stripped off of it. But overall, Really, really cool. Oh, here we go. Here is an Oldsmobile Delta. Is this a 98? It might be. What motor would this have been? See, here's the, it's a 455. There you go. So, this was a little later though. This would be lower compression and stuff, but very cool. This is, it's not super, super late though. Let's see, they say 76. I don't even know if it's quite even that late. This might be like a 74, 75, but I don't know. Someone can let me know though for sure. Because I think, again, it's an 88 or a 98. This is a Cutlass? I forgot that the Cutlass got big. Totally forgot about that. Like, they got just gargantuan in the 70s. Because this is a big ass car. It's not as big as, you know, say like a Galaxy or something like that. But damn it, look at all the bullet holes. Pew 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 pew. Every single one of those, that's I mean, big freaking bullets that went through into this. At least that's what that looks like. I could be wrong, but I think those are bullet holes. But yeah, pretty cool. You know, and again, relic of a bygone era. To see the Cutlass that got that big, I totally forgot that they got that big. Now let's do the G body shuffle. So here we have, I believe it's the G body, actually. What year is it? Because that does dictate, because they did use this body style as early as I think 78. But in all honesty, this one says 85. This would be a G body. That is cool. Actually, it's pretty good shape. I mean, obviously it's been stripped now, but I don't know. This could have been actually a really good vehicle at one point. That has the good old 3.8 V6, I think. Yep. That's what that is. Or unless, hang on, wait a minute. You know, that is a 3.8. Yeah, it's not a 305. So that's kind of cool. The non-turbo version. Because yeah, that's definitely is a 3.8. That's really cool to see, actually. Those 3.8s, you know, they use forever now. Oh, I was going to say that windshield's really good. Never mind, it does have a crack in it. Well, to say, if somebody's looking for a G-body windshield, it's right there, but never mind. That's really cool. Alrighty, here we go. Here is a Cadillac factory limousine. Now, these are just, you know, a little bit stretched out so that you got a lot of leg room, but then also it had these jump seats as well for extra passengers. It's definitely a really cool car to find around. You don't see these factory style limousines very often, because when you see the stretch limousines, those weren't like the very long ones. Those weren't factory. Those were just kind of hacked together. These, however, were designed from the factory to be like this, so they were a lot better build quality. And it's kind of sad to see it in here, but it's a pretty cool car. This would have been super lush and comfortable back in the day, and this is designed to be ridden in the back. Not really designed to be driven around, but not that you couldn't drive it around, but you know what I mean. So you know, another Pontiac. This would be a 65-ish. You know, now, because one thing is, does it say Strato Chief on it? Okay, this is a Pontiac Laurentian, so this is a Canadian Pontiac. So this would have had a Chevrolet engine, whether it was an inline 6 or whether it was a V8, who knows. But so this has the Chevrolet X frame underneath of it, and it would have had, you know, could have been a 283, may have been, wouldn't have been a 350 yet, 327 and 63. I don't know if that wasn't quite that early, but I don't know. Or it could have been an inline 6, but typically people don't take the inline 6s, but you never know. Somebody may have needed one. Now this is a little later of a Pontiac, so that's where that's, you know, earlier 60s. This is like a 68 or 69. Very cool. Again, no motor in it. So my guess is Canadian. Oh, there's a Vega over there. Yo, I like that. Hang on. So this, because what does the tag say? See, that's a 65 Laurentian, but I think this is a little later than that. But again, I could be wrong. I don't know my Pontiacs near as well as some other vehicles, but very cool. The taillights are still there and in good shape and stuff. Now, of course, there's always has to be a Camaro in the junkyard. There always has to be a second-gen Camaro from the late 70s in the junkyard. This is a 76, but same diff. There's always one. Always one. You can always count on one being in here. You know, no motor in this one anymore, which unless it was a hopped up motor, it wouldn't have been anything special, to be honest, back then. You were lucky to even get a 350 at times too, through the 70s. And well, the Camaro got bigger, the Mustang got smaller with the Mustang 2. And yeah, sorry, I'm just running low on energy here, but oh, here we go. So here is, now this is a Nova, or no, it's an Oldsmobile Omega. So the Omega was the kind of up-trimmed version of a Nova, to be honest, because there was the Oldsmobile Omega, the Buick Apollo, the Chevrolet Nova. Was there one more? I can't remember. Somebody will tell me. There's another Omega right beside it too. This thing, damn, this thing's hurting. That's kind of sad. It's cool though. Just something you don't see around too often, to be honest. And it's cool. No motor, no tranny. But you know, again, another Omega. This one has a 305, I believe, in it. Let's see. That's probably a 305. Very rarely did you have a 350 in these, to be honest. So let's see, what does that say on it? It is a 350. Wow, that's a 350 in there. Now, again, it's not a high compression 350 or anything like that. It's just lower compression. May have had 200 horsepower if you're lucky. And yeah, sad time for performance in the late 70s, but mid to late 70s, but that's how it went. Here we have, is this a Cutlass as well? No, is it? It is too. It's a Cutlass Salon. Cool. You know, just again, you don't see these big body Cutlasses anymore. You see the early 70s and late 60s Cutlasses more, like the 68 through 72. So you see all the time. And this is 75, which, you know, they could be right on that. Because sometimes they do get the information wrong, like we've seen. But this is cool. Ho, ho, ho. Look at that rustle. Yeah, again, sometimes you can see the reason cars are in the junkyard, and other times you can't. But this one, very cool. Now, when's the last time you saw one of these? So this is a 77 Oldsmobile Tornado. Now, the thing is, with the Tornado, they're all front-wheel drive. But you take a look at the engine, and they're right side forward. So basically, it'd have a motor, it has a tranny, and then there is a sort of, it looks like a transfer box, and it has a drive shaft going to the front. It's a very odd design instead of just putting the motor sideways, but they would have had to completely redesign the entire cars to do that, so that's why. It's still a very wide engine bay, but, you know, it's cool. Very cool to see. And again, you don't see these very often. When I initially saw it, I thought maybe it was a Riviera, but no. It's a, it's one of those. Very cool. Very cool Tornado. And the Tornado started in, I think it was 65 or 66. And it's one of my favorite cars, actually, those 60s Tornadoes. Now, see, here we go. See, when I talked about the Vega, so this is a Vega wagon, or unless this is like a Pontiac Astra or something like that, but there's no front end on it, so I can't really tell. This one's earlier because it has got the slats back there too. So this is the little Holley carburetor on here, which, that doesn't feel as good there. But this is kind of cool to see. And yeah, that's just all frozen solid. Yeah. So this is the little 4-cylinder that they use, and actually Cosworth modified the crap out of these and put them in, you know, the Cosworth Vega in 75 and 76. It's very cool to see, actually. And again, it's not very powerful. That inline 6 or inline 4 only has, I think it's like 90 horsepower. The Cosworth, I think, only has 110. So it's not a lot of power, but it's interesting still to see a 4-cylinder in one, because a lot of these got swapped. Everybody put a 305 or a 350. Okay, it is a Pontiac Astra. Okay, this is a 75. I thought they would have got rid of these slats earlier than that. Maybe in the wagons they kept them around, because I do know that they had slats on the trunks or on the rear fenders of the a lot of GM products from the early 70s, and the problem was that it was just sucking up gas and filling up the cabin. They only did it for like 1 or 2 years, and then they realized, oh, this is a mistake, and they stopped doing that. So yeah, and that's a Buick LeSabre from the 80s. It's in a very sorry state. And of course, where there's one second-gen Camaro, there are 2 second-gen Camaros in the junkyard. Because, like, again, there's always at least 1 or 2 to be honest. And every junkyard. This one, whew, this thing's rough. But, you know, still some parts you can take off of it. I mean, is the back glass any good? Yeah, somebody could take that back glass. And that's actually kind of a rare piece, to be honest. So, it's that's the one thing. If you're ever looking for back glass, just come to the junkyard. Especially go to these junkyards that specialize like in old cars and stuff. They still have a lot of late model stuff, as you can see around. But they've got a lot of classics too. I was about to wander right through to Fordlandia. However, look what I just spotted. This is a rare beast. So this is a Chevrolet Lumina Z34. Oh, I know there's gonna be some people that would go nuts for these parts, man. Like this, because it has a very unique body kit on it, which actually makes something pretty cool looking. The Z34 had a 3.4 dual overhead cam, and they're a good looking car overall, to be honest. I do like them. You know, being the two-door like this, door handle up here. Oh, and it's got the, on the door, I forgot they did that. Look at these seats even. Now again, these would actually clean up. I mean, they got a little bit of tearing in them, but they would clean up. And too bad, like, this is an automatic, but if this was a stick, oh man. This is cool, and it's pretty much, this thing hasn't been touched very much. But this thing is cool, man. I like it. I dig it a lot, actually. And it's one of those just weird cars that, you know, I always am a fan of. Pontiac Firebird from the 80s. This is a, well, they made these from about 81 to like 90... No, 82 to like 90... I can't remember. To 94, I think, 93 maybe. But, you know, and these were actually very, very aerodynamic vehicles. And what's interesting is they actually put the Buick Grand National 3.8 turbo in some of these, and ho, they were fast as hell. So, and, you know, it's just very cool to see an old Pontiac Firebird. I've made it to Fordlandia. So you can see, you know, Mustang. This is a New Edge Mustang built from 99 to 04. Not much really to say about them. Like, because these are, I like the design. They're some of my favorite design, but of the modern Mustangs. But here is something a little bit more up my speed. Good old Thunderbird. Oh, it's a 4-barrel. Hang on. What motor is this? Is it 460? It is a 460. There you go. What year is this? This motor's probably screwed. But this is the big T-Bird. Yeah, this is 76. Okay, that door looks unlocked, but apparently it's not. But this thing, oh man. It's got a ton of parts on it. This thing, it's a complete car. This is kind of sad to see in the junkyard, to be honest. Very sad to see. But, you know, sometimes that's what happens to these. Now, here we have something really cool. So this is a 4i T-Bird. It's probably close to an 84, 85 maybe. They didn't make these for very long, to be honest. These are on the Fox body platform, actually. And it's not the highest end of the Fox body you could find, but, you know, very cool. This is a, I think it's a 302. Let's see, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4... No, this is a 3.8. So, which is not their best motor, but it is carbureted, so it's not CFI at least. This thing's got a lot of usable bits on it, actually. This is something I'll have to tell my friend about. 85, it says. Okay. Cool. Very, very cool. Because a friend of mine, actually, he has a couple of these. There's another one over here. Wow. So, you know, there's that one. There's this one here, which this one trunk lid got taken off, and that's actually doesn't look to be in bad shape. That's locked, but you know, power options and stuff, and typical Fox body seat, to be honest. You even find those in Mustangs. Okay, this would have had a 5-liter because it's gone. Because nobody would have taken a 3.8, to be honest. And this would have been probably an AOD as well. So still a lot of usable bits on this thing, actually. Good to know. So before I see if there's any Fox bodies in here, because so far Fordland on the left didn't show any promise, but Or I should say, okay, correction, Fox Body Mustangs, not Thunderbirds. However, wandered into Chrysler land, and look what I spotted. It's a Super 6. So this is a Chrysler or Dodge Aspen. Unless it's a Volare. It could be either or, to be honest. They didn't really change much, but check this out. This has the Super 6 Slat 6. And basically, it's a 2-barrel intake and carb, which, interestingly enough, the Super 6s, they never got in the States. So those intakes, actually, for Americans, are actually a little bit coveted. Like, they're not worth a ton of money, but they do look for them. Okay, it is an Aspen 77. This is cool. Not the last, this isn't the last Chrysler product to be a little bit more of an enthusiast vehicle. Actually, no. This would have been this and the Plymouth Roadrunner back then, slash Plymouth Volare. They would have been the last V8 rear-wheel drive that Chrysler made, excluding the Chrysler 5th Ave, up to 84. And that was only a sedan. This is the last of the coupes that wasn't just a full luxury car, right? So they're kind of a cool car, actually. I go Ford LTD. This is mid-80s. What motor is it? It's a 5-liter. There you go. There's your 302. And it's probably actually not a bad motor. I mean, depending on if there's any moisture inside. You know, this one's actually not that bad a shape. I can kind of understand why it's in the junkyard, but why is it in the... Oh, it's a 1980. There you go. It's the first year of the smaller LTD. This isn't the Fox Body LTD. They did make that for a couple of years, to be honest. They're kind of rare to find. That would have been from 82 to, I think, 84. But, yeah. You never know what you're going to find in the junkyard. Well, here you go. A Merkur XR4 Ti. Now, let's see. Everything that makes it the Ti is gone. The injection system, the turbo. Yeah. It's a 2.3 turbo. These all had. They weren't the most reliable thing on the planet, but this was actually based on the Ford Sierra Cosworth. However, there's nothing Cosworth about it. It's just they took the Ford Sierra, they made it left-hand drive, and they did a similar treatment of the spoilers back here. But where the Ford Sierra Cosworth had a 2.8 V6, these only had the 2.3 turbo, and they were all injected. So that's what the TI in turbo injected, that's what that means. So very cool to see. I dig the purple actually on it. I really like that. Well, that's a little disappointing because I was looking through here and I thought that I may find some Fox Body Mustangs, but that's just not the case. Although, something to end the video off with, a Caprice wagon. Oh, I know so many people that would cry seeing this in here. These are body on frame, very comfortable. This is an 81. I don't know why, like, I always gravitate towards typically 81 vehicles. I don't get it, because even my Mustang, it's an 81. You know, I love this tailgate. That's so cool. This is actually, I mean, I understand why it's in here. You can see, schmuck. And plus, it's a little rough. It's not bad, though. Let's see, there's still a motor in it. What does it say on the thingy? It's a 305. So, not surprising. But, yeah, anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you actually watched to the end, congratulations. Because it's a long video, and that's the one thing. I wasn't going to go through every single vehicle, just some of the stuff that I found a little more interesting. Some of the rarer stuff, or some stuff I just know more things about. Some of it, as you can tell, I knew not much about, but it's just one of these things. I know a little about a lot. That's basically how I am with cars. So, anyways, hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did know, please like the video. Comment anything you see down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And, yeah, you can contact me at Katarina.garage on Instagram. And, as well, follow me on TikTok at Katarina.garage as well. Anyways, I'm tired. I'm going back to the house. Peace.